can spend an hour every single morning on RGA, I promise you, in this month, you're gonna explode your business because you're intentionally consistent with it.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we're going to be talking to Daniel Woodrum. Daniel is the author of The Dark Side of Discipline. We're going to share with you how to get a copy of his new book today. We're also going to talk about his framework in designing systems. Daniel is an entrepreneur. He's a coach. He's also a discipline expert. He's dedicated to helping business owners and high performers reach their full potential. And as the head coach at Early to Rise, Daniel has spent over a decade leading teams and coaching thousands of entrepreneurs to achieve greater discipline, leadership, and productivity. With over 14 years of entrepreneurial experience, Daniel has owned multiple businesses, guided countless high achievers to elevate their standards, systems, and results. And he's going to share with you today how you can do the same thing. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be here, man. It's good to see you again.
Oh man, it's always great to see you. Always got a great smile on your face. Always have great energy, and always very bright, which kind of contrasts with what we're going to be talking about today: the dark side of discipline, your new book, and we're going to share how the audience can get a copy of that. You co-wrote it with Craig Ballantyne, my coach, a good friend of both of ours, and
Yep.
we had him on the show. I don't know if several weeks ago here, so a little bit before the book launch. But we're gonna talk about something a little bit different today. Daniel, I got a chance to spend time with you out in California at our mastermind in January, and you did a great talk on developing standards and systems around the framework that you have around that. And we're going to dive into that today as well. But I'd like for you to share a little bit with our audience about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. No, thanks for having me. And I'm excited to share here. So yeah, I was born and raised in South Carolina. So good old Southern boy, if you can tell by my
Yeah.
Southern accent here. And growing up, I had a really good childhood. I think one of the pivotal moments for me in my life was my parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. And so, I was raised by a single mom. Still have both my parents are still alive. Great parents. Love, they both gave me a ton of love, ton of support. But my mom worked a lot. So she'd work, two jobs to support me, only child. And so I didn't have a lot of structure in my childhood, if you would. And I really struggled with school all the way through high school. Some of this was a lot of effort. I'll just be very honest. Some of it was just I didn't do good with testing, didn't have a super high IQ. And so I really, really struggled with school and academics. And so much so, there's another pivotal moment in high school, and I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but going after the end of my junior year, most of the students would meet with a guidance counselor, and you would talk about your future plans for college. They'd give you all these different tips and what you need to do to start applying for colleges. And so I met with my guidance counselor, and she knew me for all the wrong reasons of just getting in trouble in school, and her name was Miss Massengale. And we sat down and I kind of told like, yeah, like, these are the colleges that I want to apply, because even though I didn't do well in school, like I still want to go to college. That's the thing you wanted to do. That's the thing that you were supposed to do. And she looked at me. I'll never forget this. She said, Daniel, you need to have a background, and you're never going to get in college with these grades and this work ethic. And I
Wow.
was like, oh my God, like it was just like somebody stabbed me in the heart. And that was, I'll never forget that. And I've used that as a motivational tool over the years. Now, I cannot even really be mad now at Miss Massingale because she was right. I mean, I had bad grades. I wasn't putting a lot of effort into it. And so she probably could have said it in a more eloquent way, in a more way. But
That's
I
pretty
do
blunt, dude. Yeah,
exactly,
that's pretty blunt.
exactly. But I
Wow.
do thank her though, because I do believe it was not that I just changed things around right away, but I do think it was a pivotal moment for me, and I definitely have
Yeah.
used that as fuel over the years. But so I did ended up going to community college a couple of years, did get my act together, got my grades together, and transferred to University of South Carolina, and got my degree there in sports marketing, and always had this goal of like the Jerry Maguire, being a sports agent. And it just so happened that I ended up actually getting into the health and wellness space right out of college. I was working in a gym and got the opportunity to actually move to Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I live now, and open up my first gym at the age of 23. And I had no business experience, didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to figure this out. My mom, for many years, was an entrepreneur herself. She opened up her own computer business. And so I felt like I kind of had it in me. And so from that moment on, I just worked my butt off. I was working 12, 14 hours a day. And that first gym, we blew it up to a lot of success. And I did have a business partner, and opened up the second location exactly a year later. And I was using discipline as my superpower. And because I was like, well, you know what? Like, if I don't, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? I'm not the best looking guy. And so I just have to be able to just outwork everybody. And
Yeah.
that got me to a certain level of success. But
Yeah.
then there was only so much I could do. Like, I can't work more than 12 hours a day. Like, this is, I mean, I am literally getting burnt out. And so I ended up starting like the discipline almost, I was abusing it, and it became a
Mm.
liability as opposed to an asset. And so that's when I really like realized like, okay, there is a double-edged sword with discipline, right? There is a dark side of discipline as we write in the. And
Yeah.
so again, it took me many years to develop this. It didn't happen overnight, but I realized that it's more about standards, it's more about identity, it's more about leadership and building systems. So you don't just have to white knuckle your way through success. Because again, it got me to a certain point, and I'm very grateful of it. I learned a lot through that process, but that was not going to get me to the next level. I was going to be stuck just having a glorified job as opposed to being an actual, business owner, CEO, leader of a business.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Daniel, because college has really changed since,
Yeah.
you and I, I'm a little got a few more years on you, but the return on investment has really changed. The equation has kind of flipped around. And for most people, I mean, I've done podcasts on this. We've talked about this multiple times. For the average student, the average person today, it actually doesn't make sense, financial sense, to go to
Yeah.
college. It makes
Yeah.
more sense to start a business.
Sure.
So the experience that you've had, the skill set that you've built is so valuable and even more valuable today in relation to a college education. I always
Yeah.
joke, I said my engineering professor pulled me aside and said, Chris, you're not smart enough and you got too much personality to be an engineer. We have to do something else. Like, have you considered sales? Um, and that a lot of people think I was serious, which if, this guy was so smart, man. He would teach this class, and I got an 11 out of 100 one time on a
Wow.
test, and it was a C. That's how bad the curve. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
guy would teach. I forget what it was something fluid dynamic. It wasn't fluid dynamics. I'm trying to remember, but it was insane. It was like, so high level, and nobody really uses it, unless you get like a master's degree. And
Yeah.
he thought all the students were just dumb because they couldn't understand it, except for like a few, you know.
Right.
And his rule was if you got 100 on the exam, he didn't do his job because he didn't know what you didn't know. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
wow. I was like, that was demoralizing, dude. It was demoralizing. But you've built an amazing skill set. You've really, done a lot of things. You talked about a few things. I think one thing that is really important is you have that self-awareness. You kind of have that self-deprecating humor, Daniel. You
Yeah.
joke around a little bit, but it's important. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. You're not the smartest guy in the world. Elon isn't even the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He's super intelligent, but you have to understand kind of what your skill set is
Mhm.
and where that goes. Talk about, some of the, you mentioned the dark side of discipline. I mean, I follow you on social media. I mean, you're up at 4 a.m., you're working in
Yeah.
Starbucks. You have 4 kids now, is that
Three
right?
kids. Three.
Three kids, only
Yeah.
three, only three. Um, Still 50% more than me.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, talk about some of those, some of those, some of the dark side of discipline and what you learned from that.
Yeah, and so like, earlier on, and again, I guess I could get away with it more before I was married and had kids because I could be selfish. It was just about me, But as I
Yeah,
started to have a family, I'm like, okay, like there really is a double-edged sword of discipline. And so,
yeah,
I mean, a few things like I would not go out with friends. I would not want to go out with certain social functions
yeah,
because like I don't want to go off my eating habits, right? I don't want to stay
yeah,
up a little bit past my bedtime. I mean, I remember there'd be certain times, I'm sure we've all had this where, set your alarm the night before, you have all these good intentions, and you set it to PM or you didn't plug your phone up
yeah,
right and it dies. And I remember a couple mornings where I would accidentally spend, say, 30 minutes past my alarm. I would let it ruin my entire day. Like I would get
yeah,
upset. Oh my God. Like I would just beat
yeah,
myself up over it. And I'm like, what? Like that's not what discipline is. Like to me, discipline's about, hey, you're gonna have tough days. You might even have tough weeks, but it's all about getting right back on track. It's not about being perfect, right? It's just making
yeah,
progress. Like you said, being self-aware, what happened? How can I create better systems or boundaries to overcome this? And then getting right back on track. And
yeah.
so yeah, it was almost like I was just in this disciplined prison. I became like a robot. And my
Mm,
wife called me out a couple of times on it. It's like, dude, like let loose some. And again, like I still want to be able to you know, discipline and standards, which I know we'll talk about, where I'm still able to have these parameters, these guardrails, but it doesn't consume me, right? Like I'm still
Yes. Yeah.
able to enjoy life, live a fruitful life, have fun, and not just be in this disciplined prison, which I think a lot of people, unfortunately, because of social
Yeah.
media and some of the stigma and dogma out there,
Yeah.
that's what people think discipline is now. It's all about
Yeah.
this pain and suffering. That's the
Yeah.
exact opposite of what it actually is.
That's a great point. And, that's one of the challenges I had. I'm very competitive. I race
Yeah.
bicycles and, I quit racing and people are like, oh, do you ever race for fun? And I was like, race for fun? Like, what do you mean race for fun? Like you race to win,
Right.
you ride a bike for fun, you race to win. And it just, I have a switch, it's like, I'm either on or I'm off when it comes to
Yeah.
competition. And, I had the same issue you did. It's like I wouldn't go to a party. I didn't have a girlfriend. I wouldn't even take an Advil when I
Yep.
was racing my bike in college, and I got burned out. It wasn't sustainable.
Yes.
And one of the big things I love that you and Craig teach your coaching clients is you talk about the importance of rest.
Yes.
And when I used to coach cyclists, what I would see is most of my clients when I brought them on board, they wouldn't train hard enough and they wouldn't rest enough. So they
Yeah.
would train a lot, but they wouldn't be really focused. How do you guys apply that to your coaching clients? That's that
Yeah.
same type of thing.
Great question. It's like, a
Mm.
lot of times we'll get new coaching clients and they're like, yeah, I'm working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And again, I went through this myself as well. And when you really look, you're like, no, you're actually not really working 10 or 14 hours a day. You're probably
Right.
actually being
Yeah.
productive about 2, 3, 4 hours at best.
Yep.
Rest of the day you're
Yeah.
distracted, you're multitasking, you're wasting time. And
Yes.
so it's not about the duration of what you work, it's about the focus, it's about
No.
the intensity. And so that's why, like you
Yes.
said, I do get up early. I go to Starbucks every morning at 4 o'clock. I get about an hour and a half of work done, go to the gym. I'm still home to get my kids.
Where do you find the Starbucks open at 4? Because when I travel and I get up, I get up at 4:55,
Yeah.
but I hate it when I can't find a Starbucks open in time.
Yes. So
But you
in
got one.
Charleston, we have two that open up at 4 o'clock, and they're owned by the same. They're owned by the same guy, and so I've never seen
Yeah.
another Starbucks that opens up at 4. But thankfully, and
That's
it's funny,
early.
man. I get there so early, Chris, that I actually get a free coffee because they don't even have the registers open yet. And obviously, they all know me by name. I go in there every single morning. They just hand me a large. I just get a large black coffee. They hand it to me, and I get a refill on the way out. So like I never have to pay, which is also nice. So it's free coffee every single time.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I go into some of these Starbucks, you see like the homeless guy, you look a little
Yeah,
bit, you got your laptop, you look a little bit better than that. So they appreciate you probably taking out one of the homeless tables
exactly.
in the corner and getting that
Exactly.
done.
Yeah,
Um,
but another thing to that, Chris, is
yeah,
because I want to be very clear. Like, I actually a lot of times in hesitant. Like, I think people know that I get up at 4 o'clock if you follow me. Not that I actually talk about what time I wake up, but you can tell. But
yeah,
I do want to make sure that I'm very clear that it doesn't matter what time you wake up. It's really what you
great
do in
point.
the early morning hours.
Yeah,
But because you don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock
yeah,
or 6 o'clock. I know very successful, disciplined people that
yeah,
wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that first hour,
yeah,
hour and a half, they are diligent, they are focused, they are structured, they're planned and prepared,
yeah,
and they can still get as much as most people could, even if they're getting up at 4 o'clock. Like
yeah,
I always share that I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning years ago. I would listen to a motivational video. I would do all these silly things. I'm like, it's 5:30. I've
yeah,
done nothing productive. I would have been better off sleeping this extra 2 hours. So,
yeah,
while yes, I do get up at four
yeah.
o'clock, you do not get up at 4 o'clock to be successful. It's more about what you do with those early hours.
That's a great point. And I listen to Joe Rogan podcasts
Yeah,
from time to time. My older son actually enjoys listening to it. And for you parents out there, I'll tell you, it brings up some really interesting
I'm
talking
sure.
points.
Yeah,
Some of the topics and he really enjoys it. And when we travel together, just the two of us, he actually likes to listen to it before we go to bed, which is
that's awesome.
it's kind of neat. But Joe Rogan, like he stays up late. He's in the
Yeah,
comedy club till 1, 2, 3 a.m. So he gets up late. He's still very disciplined if you listen to him with the
sure.
way he structures that. And I agree, man. Like, Craig a couple years ago talked about like, how these morning routines are stupid. The
Yeah.
5 a.m. club's stupid because you get up and you blow 2 hours, doing getting ready for getting ready. And you're like, what
Yep.
is all this?
Yep.
I love what you guys talk about. Get up, get to work on the most important thing, knock it out. Using that, I wrote my book in 2 weeks. Two
Yes.
weeks following that advice from Craig, which is phenomenal. Um, Daniel, I want to get back to the presentation that I saw you do out in
Yeah.
California. It was fantastic, and I followed James Clear for a lot of years. It was right
Hmm.
around the time that I was starting to follow Craig as well. And he has a great saying. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems."
Yes.
And I love that quote, and you do a masterful job of talking about this. Can you share some of the framework about how you use these systems to help maximize your productivity? Again, for those of us that are we're just a lot of us are above, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably above average, you're working hard, you're doing
Sure.
things, but we still waste a lot of time.
Yep.
Our goals seem unachievable. We got, something comes up with our kids, or like, for those of us that are caring for our parents now, like I am with my stepdad, it's like
Hmm.
something pops up and boom, I got an hour or two, just disappears.
Yes.
How do you use systems, and how do you teach your coaching clients about these systems to maximize their time?
Yeah, great question. So, and I mean, I could give you hundreds of different systems that I think can be beneficial, but if I had to sort of identify a couple that I believe are most powerful for everybody listening here, is that the number one distraction is phones for all of us.
Yeah.
People get paid a lot of money to make sure that we are distracted by our phones
Yeah.
all the time.
Digital crack. That's what I call it.
Exactly, exactly. And so one of the most powerful systems that I've developed over the last years is there's an app, and it's the irony of having an app to block apps is just incredible. But there's an
Yeah.
app called Opal,
Opal. Yeah. Yeah.
OPAL. Yes. I actually learned this from one of Craig's clients a couple of years ago. He had mentioned it, and I immediately downloaded it. I paid $99 for a year subscription, and it is the best app I've ever paid for and downloaded. And the way that I utilize this, and I have a lot of clients do as well, is that you can fully customize this app. So you can block certain things on your phone at certain times of the day. And so, again, this is not saying that you should do this, but just an example, when I
Yeah.
was from 4 to 7 o'clock, I use my Opal app Monday through Sunday, and I cannot get on my phone except for a text or email, or I'm sorry, a text or a phone in case like my wife needs me and I'm at Starbucks, right? But I can't get on the internet, no social media, no YouTube, like all the apps are blocked. Because as you said earlier, Chris, like that is my productivity time. That's my morning focus time. That's when I go work out. I don't want to be distracted by my phone. And again, if I didn't have that, if I just relied on willpower motivation, even someone like me who's very, very internally motivated and self-disciplined, I'm gonna break because our phones are so addicted. Like you said, it's crack, right?
Oh, it's
And
crazy.
so
Yeah.
I have that. It is. It is. And then in the evening time, I put you a second exact round from 4:30 to 7. I also had the same stuff blocked on my phone because that is my family time. I've got
Love
three
that.
younger
Yeah.
kids right now. So obviously family is super important to me. And there's one moment because I think we learn a lot through storytelling. So at the time we had just had my daughter Bleed, so other two kids weren't born yet, and we're at our old house. My wife in the kitchen, I was in the living room. My daughter Bleed, she was like 2.5, 3 years old at the time. We had like a little coffee table living room, and she was playing with some stuff. And I was supposed to be, as a father, present father, I should have been playing with Blease. I was on my phone. I don't remember, again, this was 4 years ago. I don't remember what I was doing. I was either on email or social media. And she was trying to get my attention, but I was so into my phone, like I didn't even realize it. And finally, she like hits me on my leg, and it kind of jolts me. And I look up, and the sweet, cutest eyes, she says,
Mm.
"Daddy, pay attention to me." And I'm like, oh
Oh,
my, like a 3-year-old saying that? Like it was just like the stab in
oh,
the heart. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, I'm not gonna be on my phone anymore. Guess what? The next day, I was doing the same thing. Why? Because I didn't have systems in place. I didn't create boundaries.
Yeah.
This Opal app now, like I can no longer get on my phone is blocked. And so now sometimes to take extreme measures to break extreme habits. So that's like one system. If you didn't do
Love
anything
that.
else, I would highly
Yeah.
recommend you doing that. Now, one more for the business side of things, there's something that we call RGA, revenue generating activities.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of us as entrepreneurs, as high performers, like we wake up and we get in the weeds, we do all this busy work, stuff that probably needs to get done. Maybe it should not be done by you, but it still has to get done. But the problem is we default to just going into the reactive busy work as opposed to focusing on something that can actually move the needle forward. So revenue generating activities is just simply like having a list of activities that you can do on a consistent basis. They're going to help move the needle forward, are going to help you generate business, more money uh, for your business, for your personal income. And you really can break it down to two different ways. You can have what we call money now activities. So that would be like sending out an email with the call to action. That could be maybe we have so many clients, Chris. They're like, yeah, I've sent out 3 proposals. I haven't heard back yet. Have you followed up with it? No. Follow up. If they just
Yeah.
have to sign the contract,
Yeah.
they say they're going to do it, like just follow up. That is a money now task because if you do that and they sign it, you got the money, right?
Yeah.
And then, so that's money now. And there's one called money later, non-urgent important work, which we call
Yep.
NUI work.
New York.
Those
Yeah.
are things like, improve your sales script, creating a new marketing campaign, creating a new offer. It's things that are important, but it's not urgent. But if you don't take intentional time to do that, you're going to keep putting on the back burner. And
Yeah.
eventually it does become urgent. And we want to try to avoid doing things that are urgent because we get stressed, we get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yes, convince ourselves, I work well under pressure, I work well
Yeah.
under deadlines. Like, sure, sometimes we do, but why do you want that extra stress and anxiety and overwhelm? We have enough in our life as it is. Don't add to it. So
Yeah.
the Opal app and the revenue generating activities, again, if you can spend an hour every single morning on
Yeah.
RGA, I promise you in the next
Yeah.
month, you're gonna explode your business
Yeah.
because you're intentional and consistent with it.
I love that. And everything that we talked about, it has the same theme, Daniel. So whether we're talking about, training for a bike race or being a successful entrepreneur or focusing on your family, it all comes down to managing your time through systems
Yes.
and then focusing on the right thing, which again, like being in sales, I was like, if you can do a sales call a day, you're probably doing 5 times what the average person did in the
Yeah,
medical device space.
sure.
Um, it was amazing, how easy it was to get ahead if you just focused on that. Cycling, what I found was you only spent probably about 45 minutes 3 or 4 times a week actually training your physical systems, your
Yeah.
physiologic systems to improve. And I said, man, if you can eliminate all that other stuff, you can go from training 20 hours a week to going to like, and I was training like 7 hours a week, and people are like, oh, I can't train as much as you. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I'm on call every other day. I was like, I train maybe 7 hours a week, and people are like, what? I train 15, 20. And they just thought I was riding a lot. It's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 I'm just riding harder than you are.
Yes.
Um, and one of the so we're gonna give a link here for your book here shortly. I'm also gonna put a link in the show notes here. If you want to create 20 to 40 hours more per week, I have an article that I'm going to link in the show notes here, how you can do that. Daniel, you create some great systems. Opal's great. Just don't pick up your phone,
Yeah.
first thing in the morning. We got a little, when we built our house, we put a little shelf in our closet. So it's got a charging station
Love
in our
that.
closet in our bedroom. So it's away from the nightstand. And I leave it there in the
Yep.
morning until
Yes.
you know, I've done my work and got my boys off to school, and it's been amazing. Because who's bothering you at 5, 6 in the morning?
Exactly. And I like that too. I'll give you one more quick system is
Yeah,
we all know the snooze button. I
yeah,
say this, the most dangerous
yeah,
button on your phone is the snooze. I have
yeah,
yet to have anybody, and I challenge anybody listening to this, give
yeah,
me one positive benefit of hitting the snooze button. There
yeah,
is zero benefit to hitting the
yeah,
snooze button. Okay. And so having your phone across the room is like one of the simplest things that you can do to avoid hitting the snooze button because it's so
yeah,
easy. It's right beside your bed. Turn over, hit the snooze, go right back to sleep. 9 minutes later, you just keep hitting over and over and over again. So just
yeah.
simply the act of putting your phone across the room where you
And
have to
why
get.
is it 9 minutes? Isn't that wild? It's
It is
nine
wild.
minutes.
It is.
It's like,
You don't get any extra obviously quality sleep with that, right? And so it's like, if you're gonna hit the snooze, like just turn the alarm off completely. Like don't hit the snooze because the snooze just does nothing positive for you. So
yeah,
yeah, you snooze, you lose. If you are hitting the snooze button, which I don't know how accurate. I've read studies that over 50% of adults hit the snooze button, which I believe.
I believe that. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you are
yeah,
though, you stop that. That is
yeah,
probably the most
yeah.
detrimental habit that you have right now.
That's when I travel. That's one of the tricks I use. I take my phone, I put it on the other side of the hotel room,
Yep.
and it goes off. It's just like, oh. But once you're out of bed, like Jocko Willing says, he's like, I don't like to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. He goes, it sucks, but
Yep.
once you're up, it's no big deal. So
Exactly.
this morning, quick aside, my younger son went to Costa Rica with his school for
Oh
a big
well.
trip. So they're gone for a week. So they had to be at the air. They had to be at the airport at 4:20 in the morning. So I told my wife, she goes, what time? She goes, what time do you have to leave? I said, what time? She said 3:55. I said, okay. She goes, what time do you want to get up? I said 3:50. She's like, why 3:50? I was like, because I'm not going to hit the snooze. I'm going to get up right away. Well, at 3:39, I got my son shaking me. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, it's 3:39. You got to get up. I'm like, I got 11 minutes, man. You're killing
Exactly.
me. I should have texted you. I would have beat you to Starbucks.
That's
Um, yeah, but no, it is, again, to your point, it's these simple things that you can use. And I like to say you got to short circuit, your tendencies. My wife
yes,
says I have no discipline because I quote unquote can't bring ice cream in the house. I said, but I don't buy the ice cream in the first place. I
exactly. Out
said,
of sight,
I
out of mind,
know.
right?
Yeah, you gotta do that. And I think that's one of the great things that you and Craig and all the coaches with Early to Rise do, Daniel, is you work with your clients and help figure out how they can, take get those shortcuts, take,
Yes.
apply what they need to do, what systems they specifically need to achieve their goals.
Exactly. And that's that's one of the things, the biggest theme in our book is,
Yeah.
discipline. The ultimate definition of discipline is putting a level 10 out of 10 effort into your big level 10 out of 10 problem, and so, it's one of those things where, like, for the longest time, like, I respected Craig so much. I've looked up to him as a mentor, obviously, business partner over the years, is that I would often find myself chasing his goals or modeling certain standards or
Mm,
habits of his.
yeah.
And which is great because they were all like quality things. I'll even like, Craig stopped swearing many years ago,
Yeah.
and he was very public about it because he wanted that accountability, which helped
Yeah.
him stop swearing. But I'm like, yeah, like I look up to Craig, I'm gonna stop swearing as well. And I tried it for a couple weeks and I kept failing at it. And I'm like, because
You said F that.
right, exactly. I'm like, it's not my goal. Like, I don't curse that much, but I don't have this strong why to stop cursing. So it's like I was chasing somebody else's definition of success or definition of discipline. It's like, for what? So, when you, like, to your
Yeah.
point, Chris, when you do create these systems, when you want to create these standards, like, they have to be meaningful to you. You need to
Yeah.
start with your why and your vision and then reverse engineer from there. Doesn't mean you can't use other people's inspiration. You might have certain goals or standards that other people have. That's fine. But, like, you got to make sure it's yours, and
Yeah.
you're running your own race.
That's a great point. I remember talking about 75 hard to Craig, and he's like, "Why would you do something like that?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're healthy. You got a great diet. Like, why would you like? What are you going to achieve? Like, how is
Yeah.
that going to actually move you towards your goals?" To your
Right.
point, and one of the things you guys do a great job of is you say, "Hey, write down the issues that you're dealing with right now in your business, your personal life, whatever it may be. Assign a level 1 to 10 to that
Mhm.
problem, and then take your level 10 problem, and that's what you need to apply that
Yes.
NUI work to, that focus work to, and do that. And it's so simple when you guys break it down like that, Daniel, but it can be so challenging. Talk about how the dark side of discipline helps readers and your clients apply that level 10 effort to their level 10 problems,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, first is we've got the cool thing about this book, and we talk
which
about our
I
coaches.
just got mine in the mail, by the
Yes. Look at
way,
that. Look at that
straight off of
image.
Amazon. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah. And you got one. Yeah. Awesome.
It is.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
And
man.
look, and dude, check it out, man. It matches the backdrop. How
It's
about
like
that?
I mean, that's why we created it. We're like, hey, we gotta make sure this matches Chris's background.
Guaranteed way to get on the podcast. Guaranteed way to get
Exactly,
on the
right?
podcast.
Exactly. But the cool thing about the book is, and if you buy the book, you'll see this. We have a ton of resources and
Yes.
worksheets in there.
Yeah.
We're like, we want things to be practical, done, as done for you as possible. It's like, I'm not a big fan of all these theories. It's like, how can I actually apply this? How can I take action now? As you'll see in our shirt, success loves speed, delay
Yes.
kills dreams, right? So,
Yes.
one of the quickest ways to have success and to take more action is just actually have frameworks. So, we have frameworks and resources in the book, as you said, Chris, that actually help you truly identify is my level 10 out of 10 problem right now? What type of effort am I currently putting into it? How can I take that 3 out of 10 effort and get it to a 9, 10 out of 10 effort? And most importantly, what are the action steps? What accountability do I need? And we really help you break it down. And again, you're time you hear this word systems, we help you create systems
Yeah.
to be able to work on that level 10 problem. And then once you solve that level 10 problem, you're gonna have other problems that come up. We all have problems in life and they come and go. And sometimes you solve those problems for good, sometimes they rear their ugly heads again, but you have to just keep putting back that energy and that effort
Yeah.
into them so you can really solve them.
And I think you made a great point of why you don't just want the information, you don't just want the systems, you want the accountability that
Yes.
you and the other coaches provide to help you achieve your goals. For those that are listening here and they want to assign the right systems, apply that 10 out of 10 effort. We're going to have this in the show notes as well. What's the best place to get a copy of The Dark Side of Discipline, Daniel?
Yeah, you can just go to darksidediscipline.com and it will redirect you to Amazon. Or if you just go on Amazon, type in Dark Side Discipline, you'll see it all over the place. We've got over like 55-star reviews. And the book's doing really well. It launched about a month ago as we're doing this podcast, and we're really happy. And just the feedback overall is like, wow, you guys have really opened up my eyes and to discipline. This topic has not been discussed like this, like we do in this book. And it might make you uncomfortable because it goes against the grain, it goes against the norm, but just lean in that uncomfortableness, like really embrace it, take action on all the resources in there. And I promise you, you're going to see you're just going to see so much more success, more happiness, and more fulfillment and less stress in your life, which is ultimately what we're trying to achieve with this book.
I love it. And, I can attest to that. Working with Craig, working with your guys' group has done that for me. It's helped me write my own book. It's helped me achieve a lot of my goals here over the past 5 years. And Daniel, I can tell I can tell the audience from knowing you personally for several years now, you practice what you preach. You're a wonderful father. You're a wonderful husband. You're a wonderful coach, and you're a wonderful author, man. I love the book. So congratulations. If you're listening, grab a copy at darksideofdiscipline.com. Daniel Woodrum, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.